that was like, okay, that telegraphed a message to me of like a sort of split persona moment where, yeah, I felt very like genuine in myself and authentic and like, yeah, I'm totally who I am, not at home though. And that took a lot of working through to realize that I had all these layers of artificial things and not genuine parts of myself, and not a what's that beautiful therapy word, integration. I didn't have integration of myself. And so then I left home and I went to college and I lived my queer life out in the world. And then
Yeah. For me, I wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to create a world that was better than one that I had grown up in. Because I still received growing up a lot of messages, whether intentional or not, that being gay is not okay.
Like, there's like not a single part of you that I don't love, right? I'm not gonna say I'm never disappointed in you, but I'm usually disappointed in the choices that we've made together on a night out, not in you as an individual.
She asks if I was single or if I was
No, I
looking
asked you if you
for
were
somebody.
gay or straight. The
She asked if I was gay or
PC
straight.
question.
There we go. And I responded with, I'm bi, but I'm not looking for a girl tonight. Sorry. And Jackie responds with, rude. I wasn't asking for myself. So I pretty much rejected Jackie without her even asking. There is a big uptake in trying to create like safe and non-alcoholic or clubbing driven queer communities throughout America. For example, Out Loud Sports, which sponsors the kickball team that Jesse is our captain of, they're in multiple cities across the country. There's multiple LGBT centers across the country, and all of them offer youth, adult, senior aged groups. Even some YMCAs are actually starting to offer LGBT focused small community groups.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the podcast. We're experts now, and we are fabulous today. I hope everyone is letting the sunshine into their soul. My name is Rebecca. I'm your co-host.
My name is Jackie, and you better work, Bex. You better work. One of my favorite, what is that, RuPaul? I think that's a RuPaul.
I think it's a RuPaul. At this point, it's all RuPaul.
It's true. I think all culture just stems from somewhere at some point RuPaul did something, and now we're all doing it. Honestly, actually, it's funny because when you talk about makeup, even so much of the contouring that we do nowadays in makeup comes from drag culture, actually. Fun fact. That's where we really learned that.
Starting us off with a fun fact. That's your other co-host, Jackie.
It's me. How you been, Bex? You do into anything great lately?
Am I about to be doing an amateur alert? Is that what's happening?
I recognize this halfway into saying the sentence and what we were supposed to do next, and I am now going to draw this out by making some comments about.
I mean, that's who I am. I'm deer in the headlights all the time, all day, every day. I mean, I could just share the one that I just told you about, where I texted the person I have a crush on about a date that I went on with someone that wasn't them, that I was trying to text to a friend, that text, that lovely moment where you're like, oh, the one person that didn't need to see this text is the person I sent it to, because that's what my brain was trying to sabotage me into doing. But you know what?
The best part is you had no intention of seeing the date person again. You were like, that person's out of sight, out of mind, not talking to them again. And then, of course, the person you do like gets the wrong message.
Yes, I did I thought I was being stood up. I've never been stood up before. Who would dare? But basically someone's data wasn't working. We were just an app-based communication for a pre-set up date that we were going to go on. I had just come back from a full camping trip, and I made time to be there on time, early, order a drink at the bar, get a table. I'm checking. They've not messaged me back. And then when I waited like 15 minutes, finished my drink and went home. I get home, and then all the messages come in that they're like, can we move back 30 minutes? I'm finishing dinner with my friends. And here's where I draw my line, because I'm like, if you knew you had plans, I just hit the microphone. If you knew you had plans to have dinner with your friends, and then you're like, let me just pencil you in at the end of that. It's like, come on, you gave me your scraps, first of all. That's not something. And then it's like, oh, so what, you were planning that you were just going to like skate out early of dinner? It's like, no, give your friends the time. You made plans with them, hang out with them. Of course you did. Now you're running over. You can't be bothered to be 5 minutes early or even on time, and you're just gonna make me be cornered into this 30 minutes late plan. And then whoever, for whatever reasons, the text didn't show up, and it was within 90 minutes of when we were supposed to meet up, so the window was not big enough.
This person is a therapist. I'm sorry. That is like, if you are trying to enhance people's mental wellness in general, maybe not be a fuckboy. I'm just saying it. If you're a therapist, don't be a fuckboy.
So then my amateur moment
Hot
is
take.
to tell someone I went on that bad date, and the person I told was the person that I'm trying to go on a date with and have a successful date with. So I played it off, though. I was like, yeah, I'm not a deceiver. So I was just like, yeah, I didn't mean to send that to you, but apparently, you're the person that I was thinking about, and they liked that. So
Yeah.
That's where we're at today. And what are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about something that you have personally gone through. So this is more something that I have not, but I think it's just a really important topic. So we're going to bring back two of our audience favorites, Alex and Jesse, the men who are in a partnership but did not appear on the episodes in partners. So they're going to come back on and they're going to tell us about what it's like coming out. And what that experience is like. What do you think about it? I think what's really great is also I met Jesse working at the LGBT Center in Sacramento. So that is something that, we have worked in that community for a very long time. We all left that center, and now little baby Alex works there as their data manager. So I think beyond
Their
the
daddy
idea,
manager.
their data, but yes, he is also their daddy managers. But I think they have another insight on it other than just, hey, this was my experience, but also like, I have seen this in the community. I've worked in this community. Alex looks at the numbers, right? So I think we're going to get a couple of really like hot takes on this experience.
I love that our first guests to come back are doing the coming out episodes. I
didn't even think about that. You
landmark
were right,
achievement.
Rebecca. Yeah, and it is our first reappearance, so I'm very excited for our boys to come back. And I'm excited to hear their experience. I mean, do you want to share yours at all, or what that was like, or do you want to leave that for the next part?
Yeah, I guess it makes more sense to say here's how I think coming out goes. Not well, but important and on your own terms. Those are the sort of 3 bullet points I would say. Because I experienced a cautionary tale of another family member of mine, my sibling coming out and being disowned and made to move out. So that was sort of, and is 3 years older than I am. So that was like, okay, that telegraphed a message to me of like a sort of split persona moment where, I felt very like genuine in myself and authentic. And like, I'm totally who I am, not at home though. And that took a lot of working through to realize that I had all these layers of artificial things and not genuine parts of myself, and not a what's that beautiful therapy word, integration. I didn't have integration of myself. And so then I left home and I went to college and I lived my queer life out in the world. And then when I was 23, I think, the Pulse nightclub shooting happened in Orlando, Florida. And it was a very galvanizing moment for me because it just kind of made me realize, like, there I was in Philly having this big city, queer fulfilling journey, going to Woody's, shout out Voyeur, all the gay.
You took me to those places. Yes. Which one was the coolest? The whole like light up wall. It was like the coolest thing I'd ever seen.
I think that might have been Voyeur, the bigger nightclub that we did. That we had to wait to go in. Right? It was like
I
we
don't
couldn't go
remember.
in.
All
I
I
think they
remember is the
opened at like
wall.
1 a.m. Like it's like
I remember the wall and the fact that I ordered a vodka soda and I looked at you, Bex, and I was like, "This is a cup of vodka."
yeah, you got
Like,
to handle a vodka with a splash of Sprite. That's how
and
they
I was
serve it
like,
in Philly.
"No." I literally drunked out my ex-boyfriend from a bathtub in the hotel later that
That's
night.
right. I can't remember that. Yeah, so there I was making those kind of memories in my college days, 21, 22, and thinking, and then, seeing this, hate crime that happened in Florida. And that had an impact on me, making me feel like, how if I were to, if something, and it sucks that we have to think this way, but it's like if I were one of those like victims in an incident like that, if I'm spending time around those people and living in this community, and how like well do my parents know me, and giving them the chance to like have a deeper relationship, because what else did I have to lose? All we had was an artificial relationship.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so
they thought it was like more real, right? And then that like
yeah.
makes it almost even worse because you're like, yeah, it's not. Like you think it is because I'm giving you that gift of peace of your mind, but like you don't actually know me, and that's not a real relationship.
Yeah, so my mom's birthday was the next day.
Okay.
And I called her like, happy birthday. I didn't even like give myself a label because I was still figuring that out, and it was going to be more complicated than just, and that's also a complication of like queerness, is like wanting to be like, oh, I'm fully a lesbian, because that's a community, that's like a statement, versus like, well, it's actually this murkier answer. And what I ended up just coming out to my parents about was the specific relationship I was in. Like, I have this person in my life whom I love and is important to me, and if they're important to me, they should be important to you if I'm important to you. And it just didn't go well. It was like I was instantly, and it is often the case when you have these kind of conversations with people you've known a long time. It's very common to like revert to the child you were when you knew them. And so I just was like, all of my big fancy college words went away. I was like, I wish I had a doctor or a scientist or someone with a PowerPoint that I could just be like, these are facts. These aren't just like my whimsical feelings. It was like I wanted to, I just, it was a hard conversation for me to have. And ultimately it kind of ended with my mom just like, as if you were like telling someone you were like a rainbow dragon, and they were like, you sure are. And just kind of a dismissal. And she wasn't very good at having the conversation either, wasn't very prepared for it, as she wouldn't have been. But funny, 2 days later was Father's Day.
Thanks. I've never heard this story, by the way, for the listeners and viewers out there. Bex and I have been friends for years, but I have never heard this specific story that she chose holidays and birthdays, apparently. So
I know, I couldn't have had
this.
better timing to bring the family together. So I ruined my mom's birthday. I made a national tragedy about myself. I ruined my mom's birthday, and I was disowned on Father's Day for the hat trick, for the queer hat trick.
I love that. That's actually a beautiful, that's a full circle, really beautiful story there. Everything that you thought was going to happen really did.
Yeah, so my dad called me on Father's Day, and he said verbatim, "I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed." I was like, okay, this is 2 first draft.
What?
Can we get some punch up on this script? Like, who says that? That's not real. And I found out it was an accident. He was like, you were God's gift to our family, and you're ruining the miracle.
You're
of
not
your
a gift
surprise
anymore,
birth.
Bex.
Yeah, I know. I was like, this is like, are we getting disowned on Father's Day? It's like, it's like this should be happening in an Olive Garden. It's like, are we family or not? We don't know.
No.
But also in a way, I was not surprised. I was like, I'm sort of impressed with the commitment, the sincerity, the consistency. Seeing my older sibling disowned. It's like, still we're committed to the movement.
You guys are
committed. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is who
and so
you are.
I was a little like, okay, I'm not surprised. This is all checking out. And then it was just years passed, and that's kind of, I'm like, is there a good resolution? There's not a good resolution, unfortunately, except for me, because I get to choose who I am and how to show up, and have a more authentic relationship with all the people in my life. And
you get to
Yeah.
choose your family, right? Like, you spend a lot of holidays with me now, and I love that, right? And like, there's like not a single part of you that I don't love, right? I'm not gonna say I'm never disappointed in you, but I'm usually disappointed in the choices that we've made together on a night
Sure.
out, not in you as an individual. But I think that is the beauty, that is the joy. Like, as someone who spent a lot of time in queer communities, like, I have always felt safer in those spaces. Like, I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I have a lot of sexual trauma. Like, I mean, you know this, but I don't know if I mentioned it on the pod before, but like, I've had like a really weird relationship with sex, right? And I think that a lot of people who have had pretty good lives or are, haven't experimented sexually or done anything like that have a hard time of understanding people outside of their box. And the queer community has always just felt like they're already working in that space. Like, right? They're like, I've been thinking about sex and gender and all this for years, right? Like, jump over here. Let's have the conversation, right? And I think that's made me feel really safe to accept parts of myself. So, yeah, I think you're totally right. Like, giving people the opportunity to love you for who you are, that is a gift that you can give them. And if they choose not to accept that gift, that's all right too, because there's a lot of people in the world who do.
Yeah. And, the sooner you can get to explore the real things that matter, outside of those connections that may not just never come to be. But yeah, chosen family is really important. And I've been able to like have some really defining and happy experiences with chosen family because I'm not putting that on the people who can't really give it. And there's another kind of respect and like value I can get out of those relationships, with my birth family, I don't know, what are all the PC terms? Whatever, my family of
Biological
origin, family of origin.
Is that it? Okay, I don't know
the
that one.
PC term, yeah. I can have
Family of
there
origin.
is like there is I know I'm like I know
like
the buzzwords. I hate to use them because
it sounds like from a fantasy novel though. Like,
Yeah.
This is your fantasy of origin. Once your witchy, like, spell
from
casting
your
magic comes to you, your family of origin comes. Yeah.
it's like origin story. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's who made Batman. Okay. And there's like a respectful relationship I can have to those people that's fitting to that what's capable on both sides of that relationship. But also, yeah, it's also healthy to have the boundaries of like, well, I know what I'm not going to get out of there, and I'm not going to try to squeeze blood from a stone. It's not coming.
Well, I think like there's also the other side of this, right? Like, I was exposed at a very young age to people dealing with gender and sexuality, right? Like, my father was definitely having some gender dysphoria as he was dealing with his identity before he passed away, right? So to me, those conversations weren't weird. And then I kind of always knew my brother was gay. Like, I was never like, I just knew. I was like, Patrick, we share a computer. Like, I can like I know, like, your bedroom's next to mine and that's your boyfriend. Like, I know, I'm not an idiot, right? So I think when Patrick came out, he literally was like, I have something to tell you. I think he's telling me something really serious. And he's like, I'm gay. And I was like, okay, what did you have to tell me? Like, I think that there is a lot of family that are really accepting too, and that really do want to be there for their family members as well. Like, and I like, your story is always like a rough one because it's like, it's hard for me to believe that people still exist that are going to like disown their children, right? Like, and I think that's why, to like me, I always want you included in all of our holidays because I'm like, you are so wanted here, right? And just that people have those experiences where they choose to do that is mind blowing.
Yeah, and in a way, it's like really helped me have empathy and compassion for people that don't think the way I think, because I never doubted that my parents love me. In fact, like, all of their actions confirmed to them are loving actions. Like, they really believe in heaven and hell. They really believe in like their faith. And and it's coming from compassion, it's coming from thinking and caring and a brave to them act. But also on the other side of that, it's like it helps me remember that like there are people that are acting very strongly out of fear, not because they're dumb or because they're trying to be hateful. There is a way to have these conversations with people you disagree with where you meet them where they're at. And it's not like I'm going to attack them for being, hateful bigots. I'm going to ask the questions of like, well, where is the fear coming from, and like where are they actually like coming from on their perspective. And it is helpful because a lot of times I see people who like are liberal and maybe like comedians or people who are trying to like make a joke out of these dumb people who are like coming from just only like an ignorant hateful perspective. And it's like, yeah, actually I know people like that, and they're not coming from like hate and that kind. It's a way to keep yourself from being in just a bubble of experience.
Yeah. It's important to understand other people's ideas, and I think you hit on a great point. Your parents do love you, right? Like they are acting out of love, and that's again something that is always really hard for me to understand because that's just not the way I translate love, right? But like we all live in this world, we're all find a way to exist. So I'm not gonna put other people down for what they choose to believe. But I'm glad that we get to have these conversations, right?
But
like
if we could brainwash them, I would do it.
I would too, but I really want to support people's, like, I do believe in freedom of choice and like your freedom of thought and freedom of your voice. And so at the same time, I do want to brainwash, but I also want to let people be humans. That's my side degree coming in.
I think our guests, they're going to have their own like side of things. We get two people with their coming out stories, and very wonderful friends of the show. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, let's go be experts, Bex.
Heck yeah.
Take number 12, and we are back from the break, everyone. We had a little bit of the giggles today, so I hope you're laughing along with us. We have a very cheerful topic, and we have our first returning guests. We have our lovely loves, Jesse and Alex, here again with us today to talk about their coming out stories. Gentlemen, I won't make you do a long introduction because we've met you before, but why don't you tell us how you met?
You go for it. You're the storyteller.
Okay. So we met at a bar. Yeah, we didn't meet on a dating app. And we actually have to thank Jackie for meeting. So I was actually still in the closet at the time, and I had only come out to maybe a small handful of friends. And my friend Anthony was like, we have to go out to Faces. I have to take you out to the good dancing gay club, and I'm going to make you as gay as possible that night. And so I'm on the dance floor dancing, and Jackie comes up to me, and she asks if I was single or if I was
No, I
looking
asked you if you
for
were
somebody.
gay or straight. The
She
very
asked if I was gay or
PC
straight.
question.
There we go. And I responded with, I'm bi, but I'm not looking for a girl tonight. Sorry. And Jackie responds with, rude. I wasn't asking for myself. So I pretty much rejected Jackie without her even asking.
That was the first moment.
Got caught across for Jackie.
And she says, no, I'm asking for a friend. And I see her walk over, and that friend was Jessie. And let me remind you all, at the time I was 22. I didn't have a beard. I still had braces on. I literally looked like a child. And I see Jackie go back over to Jessie, and Jessie didn't come back over to me. And so, as one sad first time out at the gay bar person does, I went and got hammered with my friends. And then I was like, fuck this. Excuse my language. F this. And I walked up to Jesse and just tapped him on the shoulder and was like, "Do you want to dance?" And now we're coming up on our 4-year anniversary in February.
Love it. And it's like, I feel like it's been about 4 years almost exactly since we met you, too.
Yeah, November 15th.
Right around the corner, right around the corner. Well, we're so glad that you're with us, and I'm so glad that you denied me so that you could find Jesse. You know, it was a happy ending.
Well, now we have to hear Jesse's side of events. Was Jackie going out speaking for you? Were you asking her to look for someone?
I didn't return back because I was like, he is so young. We have a 6 to 7 year age gap, and I was like, oh, he's just a baby. This is too young.
But
But
he's
then
your
I
baby now.
fell for it. Then I fell for
Well,
it.
I came back and they were dancing. I was like, okay, so you obviously were into him. And then they never stopped, and then we love Alex. So I think that's like a good precipice too of kind of, obviously, Alex, you said you weren't really out at that point. How did that kind of experience go from there for you?
Yeah, so I mean, we met in November of 2019, so like right before COVID happened. And I was kind of lucky because the rest of my family was, well, with the exception of one of my brothers who was living down the street from like the family home, but the rest of my family was up in Washington. So, like during COVID, me and Jesse really just got to spend a lot of time with each other, and we respected each other's like quarantining and like isolation rules that we wanted for each other. So we were just spending a lot of time with each other. And then as we became a COVID couple where we kind of were inseparable because there was nowhere for us to go and we wanted to spend time with each other, I started to like realize like I felt like it was kind of unfair for Jesse to have to like be in a relationship with somebody that was in the closet and wasn't willing to like be openly out and whatnot, especially because Jesse had already been out for several plus years. And so the story goes, me and my brother and my like good childhood friend Chase, we went up to Washington to visit my family, and my parents own a big property up there. For the 4th of July, we were lighting off fireworks. And then the day we're leaving, cars literally packed up, dogs in the car. We're ready to drive back home to Sacramento and Roseville. And I run into my parents' house up there, and I like just blurt out at my mom, I'm bi. I have a boyfriend. His name's Jesse. Bye.
And who did they think you were in a relationship before that? Wasn't there a minute where they thought I was your girlfriend?
I mean, yeah, kind of. My mom was always literally like, "You're always posting pictures with like this girl Jackie and this other girl Celeste. Like, are you dating one of them?" And so she was always kind of curious. And also like I'm bi, so my mom like always kind of thought I might be gay, but I always had girlfriends and like for long terms. My partner before Jesse for about 5 years was a female, so my mom was really in like a loop of things. But my mom has a big mouth, and so I was expecting her to tell the entire family while she was up in Washington with my dad and the other brothers. And they come home from Washington about a year later, and she didn't tell anybody.
We love the respect of boundaries.
Yeah, the one time I didn't want her to spill my dirty laundry, or I did want her to spill my dirty laundry, I should say. She didn't.
I do it for you. Take care of it.
And me and my dad, we got into this big blow up fight about politics, and I was yelling at him. He wasn't very much yelling. I can become a yeller when I get mad. And I said something along the lines of Donald Trump doesn't like gay people because he said people like me spread HIV in the military. And my dad was like, "What are you even talking about, people like you?" And I was like, "Because I have a boyfriend. I'm bi. Mom didn't tell you." And then my dad totally switched from like us having an argument and being like, "My son just came out to me." And both my parents had a gay brother. My dad's brother passed away from HIV and AIDS, and so and my dad and my mom took care of him, so they were very accepting. I just wasn't comfortable with coming out. Um, but my dad's trying to like change the subject of this like political argument into being like a caring dad and being like, oh my gosh, like it's okay. And I'm just like, no, fuck you, dad. I'm done talking to you. And then I ran off to my room and slammed the door. And that kind of wraps up the beginning to end of my coming out story.
But that is kind of interesting, like bridging gaps too. Just even like knowing that you can disagree politically, but at the end of the day, like you're still family. But it's still hard for other reasons. Like it's always going to be like a kind of threshold moment.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was. And I remember like vividly, like 20 minutes after I had like run off and slammed my door, like my dad tried like coming down the hallway, and like I remember him opening my door and being like, you know, I'm here to support and I love you. And I was literally like, no, get out of my room. I was like, I don't need your love or support. And like looking back at it, I'm like, I feel horrible for saying that to my dad, because I know like a lot of people don't get that reaction. And the fact that like my dad was being like overbearing and invasive, but he was doing it because he was trying to show like care and love. Like I really appreciate that now looking back at it, because you know, I know a lot of people don't get that.
Well, I think you like hit on it too. Like you're in the middle of a pandemic, right? When this is all happening, like emotions were heightened at that period. So like I can't imagine like adding those two like areas of intersectionality of like what that is like, right? Like the world is falling apart. I haven't seen you in a year. Politics sucks. And now I'm going to try and have this very emotional conversation with you that I probably wasn't prepared to have today. Like that's a lot. So give yourself a little pat on the back for getting through it. And then also like I love just like that we're representing the bi folks out here, like especially, you know, like we love that we're here for all folks. So
yeah, bi guys are very under wrap.
Thank you. Bi eraser is a thing.
It truly is. And that's something I really didn't know until like a few years ago. So I really appreciate you sharing that story and the fact that you are bi and that you have had partners of, you know, female and male, and that's, you know, been really part of like your identity of who you are. So thank you so much for sharing that story. You did also leave out the group text, Alex.
Oh, there's like 70 people.
Oh yeah. It was like 3 weeks.
Group chat was 70 people.
It was like 3 weeks into like me like talking with Jesse. We hadn't even like set any like relationship boundaries. And like because I grew up in Sacramento and Roseville area, like I knew I had a lot of friends in the area, and I was always a little worried that like I might come across one of them while I was out at the clubs, and I didn't want like my friends, Jackie and Jesse included, like to like have to worry about my reactions of if I came in contact with one of them. So like I made a group message that was so big I didn't even send it as a group message. It had to like break it up into like several mailing lists. I'm talking it was probably like anywhere between like 50 and 100 people. And I just like sent out this message and was like, I'm bi, I'm seeing this guy, don't tell my mom, love you.
I'm pretty sure you did that drunk at Faces.
Oh yeah, I was 100% blackout drunk because I don't remember.
We were walking home because we're talking and you're just like, I think I'm going to come out to my friends, and we're at Faces and you say that, and then we're walking home and you're like, okay, I did it, and we were all like, what? We thought you were making a plan, and you were like, nope, it's done now. We're like, I support that.
It makes it easy. Yeah, one time done.
And people say I'm not impulsive.
Yeah, the only way that you could have made that more public was like a Facebook or a Twitter announcement, you know, just
yeah, but then my mom would have found out, you know, and that was the whole thing. Don't tell my mom.
It's true. Moms are always the last to know. Well, no matter what it is, they're the last to know. Well, thank you for sharing your story. I really love that story, and I love that you have such a like juxtaposition with your father of like you're mad at him about something else and then he's trying to be loving, and I think that that's such a like a difference, and everyone's stories are so unique, right? Like everyone has a different like experience, and some people have like families that have a lot of gay like family members, right? And so it's totally normal, like just join the crowd. Like I think it's is it Joshua Moon Johnson? I think his husband has like 2 gay siblings, and there's like 3 of them, so all 3 of them are gay, right? Like, and I'm sure when you come out in that family, everyone's like, yeah, welcome to the party. Whereas other people have different experiences when they maybe have like a more religious or conservative household.
Yeah, whose fault do you think it is? Your mom or your dad had the gay gene? Just kidding.
I was like, he just said it was on both sides. And on my family, it's definitely my dad's side. We figured out the gay gene, so like it's definitely that side. Jessaru, what is your? I actually don't know if I've ever heard your story.
Mine's kind of boring, which is fine and good.
Refreshing.
Yeah, I had asked to use my parents' car that could seat 6 people because we were going down to San Francisco Pride. My car would only seat 5, and we needed 1 more seat. And so I asked to borrow the truck so that I can drive everyone down there. My mom just connected the dots. I think she probably already pretty much knew at that point anyways, but was like, why do you need to go down to San Francisco during SF Pride weekend? And so she came up to me, she's like, are you gay? And I was like, yeah. And then I cried, and then I was like, don't tell my stepdad. And she was like, no, it's fine, he already knows. And then she told him, and then I was like, can you just tell the rest of the family I don't really want to deal with this? That's all it was. I think most people already knew at that point, so
his mom has made jokes about him because of his shoes.
Yeah, she said I had too many shoes growing up.
You still do. That's why you and I have a common. We love shoes over here. I do love that story. That's actually pretty great.
Yeah, that was a 5-second coming out story.
I love that both of y'all's moms were like, we knew.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the same way with my brother. He was like, I have something important to tell you. And he was like, I'm gay. And I was like, okay, what did you have to tell me? Like, this is not new information here. Well, I think what makes it really interesting, in combination to obviously you guys' both backgrounds, is that you both at one point and now have worked at the LGBT Center. So like, what really like kind of got you into that work and wanting to work there with kind of like your lives, and how's that like impacted kind of how you see coming out in the community and, being part of that?
Yeah. For me, I wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to create a world that was better than one that I had grown up in. Because I still received growing up a lot of messages, whether intentional or not, that being gay is not okay. And so I wanted to create a space that was different. When in college, I was our college's first LGBTQ student suicide prevention and intervention coordinator. And so I specifically worked on campus with students that were had suicidal thoughts and feelings and things like that. And so when I had graduated with my bachelor's in sociology, my background and experience in college, the LGBT Center had just received a grant specifically in youth suicide prevention and intervention work. And so it was kind of a great segue for me. And then I spent 7 wonderful years there at the center, creating spaces and places for queer youth to exist as they are.
And I'm going to, toot your horn a little bit here. You also implemented many, many, many programs that was helping homelessness within the Sacramento region, in particular LGBT folks. I know that a lot of those ideas were yours. Didn't you spearhead was it the house, you could, with a community member, you could just sign up to be like, I could sign up if I have a spare bedroom and just get someone that's on the verge of possibly becoming homeless in the future. Like, didn't you spearhead that entire program?
I spearheaded our first housing program. That came a little bit later when we split up all of it because it became too many programs. But yeah, I launched our first housing program.
Yeah, you have a massive impact on the community. I'm just going to toot your horn. You never do it enough. You did so much good work, and I was always so inspired working with you. And I remember there was a couple times you called me in because I was the event planner, so I definitely did not deal, client facing. I was very much kind of in my own world, and every once in a while you would need someone to stop by and man a desk or something. And I just always saw how taxing that job was, of seeing all these people who are really struggling all the time, and then keeping that strength and your mind focused on what needs to be done. I was just always very, very impressed. And so I just feel like that needs to be stated very, very clearly, all that you contributed to in particular, the Sacramento community, but I think that reached much larger as a whole.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
I'm really curious about the housing project. How do you even know that it's possible? I can see the connection of meeting a need for people who need housing, but then how do you know we're just going to ask people to volunteer their homes? How do you find out what's possible, I guess, and how to systemize it?
So that particular program was called the Host Home Program, and so you could think of it kind of as a foster care program, but a lot different and a lot more innovative, and only for youth, typically 18 to 24. So transitional age youth, they're coming out of being, young and youth and transitioning to being adult. And what's really big, what's really different about that program is that the youth get to pick who they want to be with. So, in foster care system, often they get placed into a house. But in a host home model, the youth has the entire say of where they get to go and where and how, building that relationship with their host. And so it just looks a lot different, but very similar to the kind of a foster care system. And that program was quite successful over its run.
And so empowering, right? For someone who probably has had a lot of choices taken away from them to be able to make those choices. I actually know this was right before the pandemic. One of my old bosses was trying to get into the program. And I think, obviously pandemic havoc and chaos happened all around, but yeah, super cool program. And then I know you did multiple other ones that were incredibly impressive. Just a little pat on the back for Jessa Rue.
Thank you.
And Alex, you are a current employee of the center, correct?
Yes, I am the center's current data manager. I'd say my reason for wanting to get into this type of work is a little bit different than Jesse's. I mean, we have a few year of an age gap, but I never really grew up with the feeling of being gay wasn't okay. And, my parents always raised me to be an explosive stick of dynamite if somebody says that you can't be who you are, or judges you. So honestly, what really made me want to get into the field that I am now. Well, I shouldn't say the field that I am now because, I studied data and statistics and applied mathematics in college, but specifically for working for the center, I'm close friends with, Jackie, and then my partner is Jesse, and I'm good friends with our CEO and some of the other chief level staff and other board members that I've just met through community engagement. And with where a lot of organizations are shifting nowadays, they need somebody to actually report these large numbers of data in a statistical manner because they're working with HIV information, programmatic information, and unless they have somebody that's willing to actually put in the work, and nonprofits aren't paying you top dollar, so it has to be a passion thing. They're not going to succeed, and I would really, really hate to see the center not succeed because they offer things like housing programs, HIV and STI testing, mental health screening. For example, in the last couple months, we screened 274 clients for mental health problems in our health programs. We've served it was 114 youth just in our groups. And if we don't have, somebody that's passionate about the reporting portion of it, this probably sounds boring to everybody, but that's how the center loses funding, and then that's how we lose those programs and we lose that community space. And so I'm really thankful for my friends really pushing me and showing me the importance of having those community spaces. Despite I never felt like I needed them growing up, I know there is a mass societal need globally pretty much for programs and organizations like the center.
Well, you obviously know what you're doing because you were throwing out facts already. 114. I already forgot the other number. I was like, those are very specific. Like, I would have been like around 100. So you're obviously doing the job. And I think it's totally right. Like, I think Bex and I have been talking about this a lot because, like, Wyclef John got in trouble with his nonprofit on spending all this money, embezzling it, right? And we were talking about year-end reports and how, like, that's how, you know, uh, nonprofits tell the community what they have done. That's how people see where the money has been spent, what's accomplished. And so it's jobs like yours, actually, that are the ones that are able to put that information together so that people can see the progress that you made. It's really easy to look at, community center and everyone working their butt off, and you're like, oh, okay, I'm sure they're doing stuff. But then when you get a sheet of paper that's like, this is how many showers we've provided, this is how many meals we've provided, this is how many phone calls we've taken, or whatever it may be, it starts to becoming quite astounding, really.
Yeah, and even just like just mentioning, bringing up the mental health screenings as well, because it's already one thing just for people who are struggling with in different minority classes to have, especially in the gay community, to have a safe place to live, medical care, but mental health is just so like it's such a last concern for so many people that they're just trying to survive, that to also have those resources of mental health and affirmative care and a community. And, like you're saying, it takes people who are passionate, because it's such a labor of love, and the keeping it organized helps it, be successful. But I love seeing all this giving back action.
Yeah,
It's
and
great.
I mean, me being a math person and you saying the minority population, some facts that I actually did just recently here in a training, is that currently in the United States it's like 37.6 and some change, that it had like a 4 decimal places percentage, or 37 and some change percent of homeless youth identify as LGBTQ plus IA. And of that 37%, it's like 75% of them report having mental health insecurities or problems. And so, just like you said, making sure that we have those services for minority populations or disadvantaged and marginalized communities is very important.
I'm glad you brought up that statistic because I was actually going to ask about that same one, because I remember, I want to say when I was working at the center, it was 1 in 4. So that was like 25%. And so that means that we've gone in the wrong direction. That percentage is higher then, or maybe I just don't remember the percentage correctly. That is
It was
also
40%. It was
it was
40%.
it was still 40%. Okay, maybe I was just remembering the 4, but yeah, like that's still like it's astounding that fact has stuck with me for years, because I don't know what percentage of the population is LGBTQIA plus, but I don't think it's 40%. It's a really upsetting number. And then when you look at, I think, some of the reports and why a lot of those people are experiencing homelessness is a good portion of them were thrown out of their homes or not accepted in their home and had to go find, another option. And they probably had a good option when they first left, but you get a little bit time in there and you went out of it. It's that one's always really, really, really stuck with me. I think the other statistic was that when you've been homeless, there's something like an 80% chance of you getting, assaulted either sexually or physically, like within the first like 72 hours or something like that. That like the level of violence that you are exposed to within those first few days is so high. And I always was just like, man, if I was exposed to that type of stuff and I had to sleep during the day to keep myself safe, I would be making some different choices in my life. Like I would certainly be doing different things. And it's really easy to sit in my nice life, with all my stability and say, oh, I don't understand how somebody ends up like that or does that or makes those choices. And well, you haven't experienced what that life is like, and you should, look at the statistics. Thank you, Alex, before you make choices.
And now we have all this positivity from people doing creative changes, and creating changes and doing this important work. And we are seeing like more awareness of different identities under LGBTQIA plus umbrella, and like just more awareness of terminology and coming out stories that can be 5 seconds long. Like that's where it is like really inspiring, and I'm hoping there's more trending positivity in the gay
Yeah,
community.
between the three of you, we have the full spectrum of what the experiences could be like. Jesse's 5 seconds coming out, and Rebecca's is a little different, but and now here's me coming out. No, I'm just kidding. We've all been waiting for it.
I mean, the going joke is that Jackie is pretty much just a gay man trapped in a woman's body, so
It's very unfortunate.
Jackie is gay, so
I am an honorary gay, as I'd like to think. I just I don't get along with most of the heterosexuals. They're just kind of weird, if you ask me. So,
are the heterosexuals okay? Write in, let us know.
I think my favorite part from the first part of the episode was I don't remember who said it, but when you go to your first gay bar and you get a goblet of vodka in your drink, the whole thing is vodka.
Yeah.
It's accurate.
Yeah,
and they only charge you $6.50 for it.
You have to warn your friends if you take them to a gay bar.
Yeah, it's intense. It's intense.
They will get murdered by vodka.
You used to order tequila shots, and the bartender would pour them, and it would just be a glass of tequila. And I would be like, I cannot, that's not a shot, that's 4 shots, and no one needs that.
It only counts as 1 if you take it all in one gulp.
It's 1 gay shot, so.
Yeah.
Gay shot.
It reminds me, my sister-in-law and Jesse's birthdays are like a day or 2 apart. And I think it was the first like birthday we were celebrating since I had come out, and like Jesse had been really involved with our family, and so I convinced my brothers and my sister-in-law to come out to the gay bar that's just right across the street from our apartment. And I got my sister-in-law absolutely hammered, and she was just like, I swear this bartender's hitting on me because he keeps on pouring me really strong drinks. And I was just like, no, Aaron. I was like, he's a flaming homosexual. Just a standard gay bar drink. And she just looked at me with like these horrified eyes and was like, you do this every weekend?
You're like, he's wearing a jock strap. He's definitely not hitting on you.
Literally.
Good times. I do miss the club days. I am glad that I am now 145 and I can no longer do it. I think one of the last times I went out in Sacramento, I fell asleep in a bar, which was impressive. So, because it was a nightclub. It was.
I know. And it is a shame that alcohol has to be so tied to gay life, but you can, if you want to meet your, love of your life, you can join Jesse's kickball team, and you can meet your love of your life that way.
Or you can take me out, and I can randomly ask people's sexuality, because that's really appropriate. So.
Yes, Jackie will break all the Title IX.
It's always better to ask than to assume. So Jackie is kind of right in that extent.
But my question was flawed because I only gave 2 options. That's where it all went wrong. I should have been like, are you part of the letter alphabet?
Yeah, you should have great and then do it.
But I also do kind of want to speak on what, Beck said about, alcohol-driven queer communities. There is a big uptake in trying to create like safe and non-alcoholic or clubbing-driven queer communities throughout America. For example, Out Loud Sports, which sponsors the kickball team that Jesse is our captain of, they're in multiple cities across the country. There's multiple LGBT centers across the country, and all of them offer youth, adult, senior aged groups. Even some YMCAs are actually starting to offer LGBT focused small community groups if they're in an area that is not anti-LGBTQ plus IA rights. And you can find those communities that are not, again, clubbing or alcohol driven. If you are in the closet and wanting to find that first space to go out and experience the queer community, and if you're not a drinker or partier or a clubber or anything of those extents. So do some research, look out to your local community, see if there's a Discord sponsored by a local GSA or anything along those lines. My organization, the Sacramento LGBT Community Center, we have a youth Discord that you don't actually have to live in the Sacramento region to join. There's lots of safe spaces for people that are just curious to see what it's like to be a part of the queer community.
Thanks for plugging that. I think that's like a super excellent point. And I think you pointing out the Discord as well, like even if you're not in an area that is going, you're not in a city, you're in a rural area and there's not access to an LGBT center, there's lots of virtual options now as well, like those Discords, and lots of, I think pandemic created a lot of those spaces too. So you're totally right. There's so many options now. There's so many ways to connect. And they don't always have to be dancing, but if you do love dancing, we're all ready to go to the club with you.
Yep.
A drag queen will change your life in a gay bar. I just got to tell you that.
So good. So good. Your first drag show is just always your best drag show, Well, thank you so much for joining us today. Actually this evening, and to those of you who can watch, Bex and I are in a hotel in Boston. We didn't even mention that at the top because we were giggling too much. But thanks for joining us this evening, and in sharing your stories and being open with that and letting people into your lives and love you for who you are, truly.
Thank you for having us again.
Yeah, it's always nice to be a virtual participant in this very educational conversation.
Very serious podcast every time. All right, let's go be happy.
Bye.
Let's go be happy.
So I made a group message that was so big it didn't even send it as a group message. It had to break it up into several mailing lists. I'm talking, it was probably anywhere between 50 and 100 people. And I just sent out this message and was like, I'm bi, I'm seeing this guy, don't tell my mom, love you.
I'm pretty sure you did that drunk at Faces.
Oh yeah, I was 100% blackout drunk because I don't remember doing it.
We were walking home because we're talking and you're just like, I think I'm going to come out to my friends, and we're at Faces and you say that, and then we're walking home and you're like, okay, I did it, and we were all like, what?
Whose fault do you think it is? Your mom or your dad had the gay gene? Just kidding.
That was great. And that was the show. Thank you everyone for watching, and we hope you stay curious.
If you enjoyed this video, watch our other videos here on YouTube, or you should listen to the episode on We're Experts Now podcast. Bex, where can they find us?
You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and iHeart Music.
And what if they want to talk to us?
If you have ideas for something you want us to investigate, send us an email at we'reexpertspod@gmail.com. That's wereexpertspod@gmail.com.
Great job on that spelling. A+. Do you do this professionally?
I believe we're both doing it professionally right now.
Wow. People should know about this.
I completely agree. And you can find us on Instagram at We're Experts Now Pod.
Thanks again. And if you enjoy the show, subscribe and comment, and do not forget to leave a 5-star tip.
That's a great idea. Are you a podcast expert?
I think we both are. I think
we're experts now.
This has been a Just Being Better media production.